Nearly 1 in 5 workers are loud quitting their jobs, and it's way more extreme than quiet quitting. Today we're going to take a look at one of our favorite topics on this channel, and that is more dumb corporate buzzwords that are usually used to describe what employees have been doing for like the last 150 years since the beginning of jobs, and then label it with a buzzword that is inherently negative and almost has nothing to do with the word. For example, quiet quitting. The buzzword has nothing to do with actually quitting. It's just about doing your job, and if they expect you to work weekends, long hours, go above and beyond, then they should compensate you in some form for it. Quiet quitting is a global phenomenon that could cost the economy $8.8 trillion. If you're one of those people out there that's doing their job satisfactory, keeping everyone happy, apparently you're costing your boss and executive,
global economy,
up to $8.8 trillion per year.
You're harming the global economy by doing everything we expect you to do.
Insane corporate gaslighting. Call them loud quitters or grumpy stayers. More people are keeping their jobs but still want change. Two buzzwords describing one behavior. People that are vocal about their dissatisfaction with their job. But listen to how these articles try to frame these employees as if they're going against the organization for simply telling others how they feel about their job. One thing you'll notice with loud quitting, quiet quitting, and these other buzzwords is that managers, executive CEOs, and small business owners will constantly comment,
"Nobody's forcing you to work there. Why would you stay in a job that you hate? I don't get it. You just sit there and complain, but you take the money anyways. What are you doing?"
I find the people that say these things have most likely not experienced hardship on that level, and they're not able to relate. Maybe they've never needed health insurance to buy their medication to stay alive. Or maybe they have, and they have survivorship bias because they made it out, and they weren't actually stuck in a job. And another thing you'll notice is that these articles almost never ask why employees end up behaving this way. They just say,
"Look at how they're behaving and look at what it's costing the company."
Gallup's 2023 State of the Global Workplace report, which surveyed 122,416 workers across the world, found that 59% of employees are quiet quitting. Let's rephrase that to what it actually says. 59% of employees that took this survey are doing their jobs to the satisfaction of their managers, coworkers, and everyone else. But when you phrase it like this, it sounds terrible. Again, the buzzword has a negative connotation to it. And 18% are loud quitting. Loud quitters are actively disengaged. Rather than putting in minimal work, they actually directly harm their firms. 3 different articles say that loud quitters actually go against their firm. They only really give 2 examples. Number 1, you could damage the company's brand, and number 2, new employees might not want to work there anymore. You know what that sounds like to me? A whistleblower, really. Someone trying to help other people realize what they're about to get themselves into, but loud quitting. Welcome to grumpy staying, where workers don't have the leverage to quit, and some aren't too pleased about staying. They very much oversimplify the actual issues. Listen to the phrasing of this one. Indeed's wage tracker indicates that skyrocketing pay is slowing down, and just 43.5% of consumers say jobs are plentiful. What do you mean just 43.5%? I could see just 3%, just 4%, but this is almost half of consumers. That's a huge number of people. Here's another part. As wages barely keep up with inflation, why is that? Is it because of greedflation? The phenomenon where large for-profit corporations raise prices far past that of actual inflation and keep raising prices far faster than the rate of actual inflation. That's right, companies can artificially raise the cost of living for everyone just by raising the prices of all of their products and saying,
"There's inflation, times are tough, supply chain issues."
And there's almost nothing you can do about it. Now, of course, I'm not saying that corporations are the sole cause of all inflation, but when you take inflation and combine it with greedflation, well, then you have workers that can't afford to live anymore. The prospect of a recession means some workers are fearing layoffs, more fear-mongering. Many have no choice but to keep punching the clock. But they don't really go into any of those reasons. They just talk about how annoying and bad loud quitters are or grumpy stayers are. Oh, and then they end it with, "and grumble around the water cooler." Here's their next article full of more fun nonsense. Nearly 1 in 5 workers are loud quitting their jobs, a new Gallup poll says, and it's way more extreme than quiet quitting. Now that you know what loud quitting is it really way more extreme than quiet quitting? Is vocalizing how your company treats you and other people and what you do and don't like about your company loud quitting? Or is that just being transparent, maybe even a whistleblower? And like I said before, the articles keep saying that loud quitters are actively going against and opposing their organizations without really saying how, but I'd be willing to bet that you as an employee, just asking questions about policies at work, would be seen as opposing the organization and the company. The report says loud quitters are actively disengaged as opposed to quiet quitters who are simply not engaged. That's not what quiet quitting means, because again, the definition of quiet quitting is doing your job and everyone's happy with the work that you're doing. How is that not engaged? What more do you want? Do you want them to treat a company that's not their own like it is? Come on, Gallup. Employees considered engaged were said to be thriving at work, probably doing a whole bunch of unpaid extra work because they went above and beyond and got more work. Stop trying to guilt employees for doing their job, the thing you hired them to do. Where quiet quitters tend to be more passive in their disengagement, loud quitters may actively undermine employers' goals and can damage the brand when it comes to attracting new employees. The question really boils down to, do they deserve it? Did they tell everyone there's not going to be any more layoffs and then a week later do another mass layoff? But no, we don't want to focus on the actions or behaviors of companies that cause employees to end up acting this way. We just want to focus on the employees acting like loud quitters and complainers and whiners. Not why though. No one asks why. They're detached from the organization, but also emotionally against the organization, and they'll be vocal about it. This is just one of those stigmas that I absolutely hate in life, but if a company says one thing, does another thing, and treats you a certain way, then you should be able to talk about it without being instantly categorized as a negative employee, or in this case, a loud quitter, which is most likely what a lot of these people being labeled that are. And you can see just how out of context and how many details are missing. But before I do that, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. If you don't know what Brilliant is, it is one of the most low pressure and hands-on interactive ways to learn math and computer science. And I myself am a visual learner, and that's what they focus on here. You see, behind the scenes, when I'm not posting videos, I'm actually learning a lot about data analysis, AI, and neural networks, because in my opinion, AI is the future, and that's not much of an opinion, it's more of a fact. You can either be one of the people programming the AI, maintaining the code for the AI, or be one of the people replaced by AI. At least until AI figures out how to maintain itself, in which case I'll see you all in Skynet or the Matrix, I guess. You see, the thing I like about Brilliant.org is that it's built for busy people. And what I mean by that is you can master topics in as little as 15 minutes per day. Now, if you're one of those people like me, where you work on your computer all day long, and the idea of sitting there even longer to learn more stuff is not appealing, well, then you're in luck, because they have an app for tablets and for your phone. So you can sit in the drive-thru and wait to pick up your Taco Bell and learn about neural networks. I'm just using that example because that's what I actually did. Oh, there's never a bad time to learn something new, so get out there and future-proof your skills a little bit while you're waiting to pick up food that you know you probably shouldn't be having, but you'll pay for that later, right? And if you're into it, they've gamified the system so that you get XP to motivate you to complete every lesson. But if you're not into AI, neural networks, or data science like me, that's fine, because they have thousands of other lessons you can choose from. And if you don't believe me, well, you should, because if you use my link down in the description, you get complete access to Brilliant.org for 30 days. And the first 200 of you to click that link will get 20% off their annual subscription. If you're interested, go check them out. It's Brilliant.org/Joshua Fluke. Now back to the Gallup study for some more cringe. So what can leaders do today to potentially save the world? Well, the Gallup Foundation has found one clear answer. Change the way your people are managed. Why not just phrase it as change the way you manage employees at your company? I have a problem with that phrasing. It's just me here, but like, they're not yours. You just pay them. It's weird when they say this. Now for some strategically cherry-picked quotes from employees that answered this Gallup poll. Well, I enjoy my work, and I would miss something if I didn't have to work. So if the employer said, "You're a nice boy, just go home, I'll keep paying you, you don't have to do anything anymore," then I would miss something. Because, I'm just thriving at work. Here's another one. We are not only coworkers, we are friends, so we hang out outside. We have barbecues, we go out to bars together, we hang out together, so I like it. Just because you're thriving at work doesn't mean that you're not ultra stressed out at work. So, convenient how they just leave that out of this part of the study. The second section is, the majority of the world's employees are quiet quitting. Rephrase that to what it actually says. The majority of the world's employees are doing exactly what they've been asked to do. You pretty much just lost all my respect. And not that you care, but this is very clearly aimed at CEOs and people you want to pay you for management training, which is what you mentioned at the bottom of this. It's like the previous video I made about the 3D model Anna, where they came up with a study about what would happen to all of us simply just to push their own narrative. It's kind of what's going on here. See, look, quiet quitting. The employees are filling a seat and watching the clock. That's not what quiet quitting is, Gallup. Stop rephrasing everything. They put in the minimum effort required, and they are psychologically disconnected from their employer. That's fine. What's wrong with that? I don't have to be deeply and emotionally invested in your company because you pay me. And for leaders and CEOs and executives to expect this of employees is insane. It's not their company. They don't control it or benefit from it like leaders do. But also, this is just wrong. These employees are filling a seat and watching the clock. No, these employees are doing exactly what they've been tasked to do. Gallup, take this garbage off the internet. I hope you get called out for this nonsense. They put in the minimum effort required. I mean, if that's how you want to phrase it, it means doing their job. If you're satisfied with the work they're producing, then why does it matter the amount of effort they put into it? Although they are minimally productive, that's Not what that means. They are more likely to be stressed and burnout than engaged workers because they feel lost and disconnected from their workplace. Oh, you mean they're not corporate simps and don't just believe everything automatically when their company tells them something. So people that have boundaries, Gallup, is that what you're trying to say? Loud quitting. These employees take actions that directly harm the organization. Like what? Undercutting its goals and opposing its leaders. Opposing its leaders. I think they like to say this, but again, I'd be willing to bet you just questioning your company's policy or CEO's behaviors on something would be seen as opposing its leaders. At some point along the way, the trust between employee and employer was severely broken, or the employee has been woefully mismatched to a role, causing constant crises. Again, no mention of compensation or money or anything like that. It's just trust and mismatch to a job. Gallup, you're really reaching here. You're really aiming for those CEOs that just have no idea what's actually happening. Although the world has recovered from the worst of the pandemic, employee stress remained at a record high level. So you talk about all this thriving and how everything's going great, but then you say, yeah, but people are still the most stressed out they've ever been at work. Even the people that are thriving. Engagement has 3.8 times as much influence on employee stress as work location. Are you buying that? I'm not buying that. Where I work absolutely has everything to do with how much stress I have. The office stresses me out. I'm not buying it. But feel free to kind of flip the tables and say, well, it's actually engagement affecting your stress, not your work location. Please come back to the office. More corporate propaganda, more corporate nonsense. And again, we have cherry-picked quotes from employees that answered this survey. Having my workplace at home has made it more challenging to separate myself and step away from work. Rick, 71, a manager. This next one, at home I feel like my job is just work. Like there's not, the fun stuff, the camaraderie, right? The relationship building is a little bit harder, said Ann, 33, a manager. It's always the managers. Where's the camaraderie? That's why we don't want to go to the office. Leave me alone. Let's just work. And then they show this last page here, which is takeaways for leaders. Quiet quitting employees are your organization's low-hanging fruit for productivity gains. They are ready to be inspired and motivated, not paid more or compensated extra for doing more work. You're just ready to be inspired, and somehow that'll make you do a whole bunch more of uncompensated work so you can help that global economy potential number reach 8.8 trillion or whatever it is. I think by now you can clearly see the corporate bias in these studies and articles. So that's enough of this. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, click that like button, subscribe if you'd like to see me take on the corporate world some more, and call out this nonsense when it comes out. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about all this. Lastly, I'd just like to take a moment and say thanks again to today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. Again, you get 30 days free. All you gotta do is click my link down in the description. Go learn some AI. Your future self will thank you. Maybe your future AI self will thank you. Who knows? Having said all of that, I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.